Before we begin, would want to do an acknowledgement of country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, the Centre for Volunteering acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia, their connections to land, sea and community, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. I'm currently on Gadigal Wongal country in Sydney. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So what we'll cover today, we'll just do a quick recap of inclusive volunteering and diversity. Understand that Luke and Paige, you have attended these sessions, so you're well across these topics, which is great. We'll look briefly at the national standards again. You're both very across this, which is great. We'll be looking at different ways of celebrating volunteers, and we'll be looking at a case study of a volunteer over in the UK, in Oxfam. We'll be looking at how to also recognise diverse volunteers and a couple of do's and don'ts, and we'll have a bit of a checklist and a Q&A. But I think both of you know my presentation style. I'm fairly relaxed, so feel free to interrupt, and we'll have some discussion points along the way as well today. So again, both of you know the Centre for Volunteering really well. We're going to turn 50 next year, which is really exciting. So do watch the space for some great events and some upcoming information around that. We do a volunteer referral service, education and training, advice, advocacy, recognition. And our vision is to build strong, diverse and inclusive communities through volunteering. And our mission is to promote and support volunteering in the New South Wales community. And I just would encourage both of you to keep checking on the website. We do have new resources released fairly regularly. We also do have the help desk as well. So that is staffed by Diana and Aisha, both previous volunteer managers themselves. So definitely have a think about if you do have some type of issue or want to have some tips around certain things, reach out to the help desk. Again, what is volunteering? Volunteering is time willingly given to the common good without financial gain. So that's by Volunteering Australia in 2015. And yeah, so I'm sure both of you are very well aware of that. Just a bit of a recap around diversity. So these definitions have come from the Diversity Council Australia, and again, a great place to get resources and further materials to support diversity and inclusion, including in volunteering settings. So diversity is referring to the mix of the people in a group or an organisation, and the inclusion is where you're actually allowing that group to work together, giving people agency, and allowing people to positively contribute to the organisational group. So really, that's only how you really benefit from having diversity, is having an inclusive culture. So really, what it looks like when you do have that group of people working together, you do improve performance and well-being, and so people feel respected, they feel connected, they're contributing their perspectives and their talents to the workplace, and they're also progressing, so there's improvement as well, which is great. So the 8 standards of volunteering. So we're currently on standard 7. Where has this year gone? It's flown past. So we're looking at volunteer recognition. So to have a robust volunteering program, you also do need to be thinking about how you're recognizing and rewarding your volunteers. What we'll do is we'll watch this video. It's a case study around a person called Becky volunteering at Oxfam in the UK. We'll have a couple of discussions after the video. I'll just stop sharing for a little bit, and just so I can pull this up properly. much.
She got these beautiful big tattoos. It's okay when you're 20, but when you get to my age, 83, forget it. You're all wrinkly, aren't you?
But I want to get one on my back. Is that bad? That will definitely get wrinkly, won't it?
Well, definitely. And who's going to see it?
Volunteering can be that thing that just gives you that structure to kind of get through that hard time. Before I started volunteering, I was doing medicine at Liverpool, and the course just wasn't for me. I was suffering with depression. I dropped out, and then that summer was just kind of trying to get my strength back and find things to do with my time. I'd always really liked the Oxfam shop and always shopped there, and it just seemed like a nice place to be, and I always really liked vintage clothing. So I just went in and asked about volunteering. It just became a regular thing that I wanted to do every week. Even if it's just a small thing, you've kind of contributed to putting a little bit of goodness back into the world when like there's so much bad stuff. I look after the books department. Everything from the recruitment of books volunteers to training them to the shop floor merchandising, everything to do with books is me. I really like the posters that we get that show us what money we've made that year and what that equates to in terms of like how many women we've helped into work or how many families we've helped get fresh water. The job number is 090313. I want to be able to influence people, and I want to have a say in what happens in the world around me. Thank you so much. I think I'm going to try and do that through charity work or through politics, and I'm hoping that Oxfam's the start of that.
So that was the little case study, and I thought we could have a bit of a discussion about that. Can you see my PowerPoint now? No, okay. Let me just stop again. And I said, as I said in the start, I'll send it across these links as well. We'll lock them well. So I just thought we could have a bit of a discussion around what we saw and that short kind of case study. And the three topic kind of questions that we could talk about is how do you think Becky feels about volunteering? What recognition did Becky spoke about in this video, and what else could be done to recognise Becky's volunteering? Luke, would you like to kick us off, or Paige, if you want? Sorry, you just unmuted yourself, Paige. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll go. Well, she just seems really positive and empowered by her experience. She feels like she has a voice there and is making an impact. Yeah, so I'd say that's how she feels about it.
And it seemed like it was quite a positive change as well. It seemed like she had some mental health issues, and I think probably her confidence was a bit down when you are not really excelling at university as well. That can be really challenging. Yeah. Luke, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think it's I think she feels safe in that role, and I think that's really important, and welcomed and part of the group, and that sort of agency of being able to choose where to volunteer as well. Obviously aligned with her lived experience, and was a place that she already knew about and wanted to go to. So that's a really great thing too.
Yeah, fantastic. And what recognition did you see in that video?
Whoever unmutes first, I guess. I saw group recognition, and that's something that sort of resonates with me as well. So it was about impact. Your volunteering has led to this outcome in the community we're working in. And I think that's there's a reason we do that as well, because it recognises the entire team. And there's a lot of value in that, because then that's inclusive, at least to our way of thinking.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there is a lot of advantages when you are recognising teams of volunteers. And I've observed sometimes when certain volunteers get recognised, and it sometimes has a bit of a negative effect on that volunteer base. It kind of has the opposite kind of desired effects. Yeah. And what else do you think could be done to recognise Becky's volunteering?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you could say like individual recognition could be something, just depending on your group of volunteers and how they respond to that as well. Just keeping in mind what you were saying before. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. And I'm sure Becky probably would be at that kind of stage of her life that she probably would be wanting to look to enter into a paid position. So I guess there could be recognition through like a statement of service or reference kind of options, because that is a way that can really empower Becky, but it also it doesn't retract from the team as well. Yeah, fantastic, excellent. I just thought it was a really cute video as well. I kind of liked that they were talking about tattoos at the start. I thought, oh, this is kind of a bit different. Anyway. So these are different ways that you can celebrate volunteers. I think one of the first things that's really important with your volunteers is to ask them how they best want to be recognised. Giving a say in their work, their recognition, and the organisation. If you allow people to have agency and empower those people, again, that's how that inclusivity actually happens. You can also have a very diverse workforce or volunteer team, but you're not actually, having full advantage of that team unless you're actually asking how they want to be engaged. Statements of service and certificates can be really meaningful to a lot of volunteers as well. I know of certain volunteers that will collect these. Some are wanting them for employment recognition as well. I think another great one is to take photos of volunteers in action. A lot of the time, volunteers are just so busy, they don't really have time to take photos of themselves. And I think it also allows for use of social media, as long as you've got a good, photo release and privacy statement for your volunteers. But it's a really nice thing, and people can share that on social media themselves and promote their volunteering further. Thank you functions. We all have attended a thank you function for volunteers. Just be mindful of different kind of naming of those functions. You'll hear the term like Christmas party thrown around, but really the reality. Oh, hi, Mark. Mark's just joined us. But the reality of the situation is a lot of people, are from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. They are, celebrating their faith in different ways. So it's just good to be a bit more neutral around those terms. Volunteer pins. I was recently at a networking event that was held at the Story Factory in Parramatta, and they were talking about how they've started to create Story Factory volunteer pins, which was really nice. And some of the volunteers are loving them. Some of them are not so phased. But again, if it's optional and people have some choice over what they can do, that's always great. There's also the Volunteer of the Year New South Wales Award, and there's also the New South Wales Recognition Program. Both those nominations are closed for this year, so they will open again next year. They're a great way, and there is a team category. There's also a newer category, which is governance, so for board levels. So it's a great way of thinking about how to actually recognise volunteers in a meaningful and formal manner. It also allows for those volunteering stories to get elevated and to basically promote the organisation, the volunteer program that is happening, and just the general work of that organisation. Writing thank you notes. There's been a couple of studies around thank you notes, and people really do like this small momentum, and it's just a wonderful way of taking the time to reflect on their volunteering journey as well. Highlighting volunteers in newsletters is also a really nice way of doing things. It also allows for people to get to know different volunteers, especially if you have volunteers on different shifts or they're working and volunteering in different locations. So yeah, it's a great way of highlighting different people in the team. Giving shout outs at meetings, at events. So, praising in public is really important and powerful for people. Arranging discounts for volunteers if you have a good network in local shops or businesses. And also a lot of businesses are wanting to positively contribute to, basically the community themselves as well. This is a really interesting one, including their name in a program that they've helped develop, or sometimes it could be naming a certain building, or I know with Girl Guides, I am a Girl Guide leader, and we sometimes will name boats after Girl Guide leaders who have volunteered in the sailing or the rowing or whatever type of kind of watercraft. But yeah, so that's something that can be really engaging and powerful for people. A really nice one of doing things, and it also helps with the induction process of new volunteers, is actually asking volunteers to mentor new volunteers. So kind of like a buddy system. It's a great way of recognising and rewarding and basically complimenting people on their volunteering and making sure that they know that they're doing a great job. Asking volunteers to assist with trainings and presentations. Just be mindful, though, that a volunteer role should never replace a paid position, but it still is good for a volunteer to contribute with, training of new volunteers, of staff members, and just giving that volunteer lens. And again, it's giving that choice, that power, and that agency over to volunteers, which is really important. And then everyday ways of thanking volunteers. So that can be, saying thank you and doing it in a meaningful way. It can be thinking about how to actually engage volunteers in different ways. It can be also having conversations with people as well. And it can also just be being mindful that volunteers are giving their time up willingly, and that they should have sometimes a greater respect than a lot of the other people that interact with the organisation. Also, when you do have engaged volunteers, a lot of the time they are higher donors as well, so financial donors to the organisation, because they feel more involved with the organisation. So again, it's good just to make sure that they're happy. I just kind of wanted to hear about how people in this room volunteer, reward and recognise their volunteers. Does anyone want to share something that they've been recently doing in their volunteer teams? Mark, I think you're on mute.
Hi, Alice. How are you?
Yeah, good. And yourself?
Good, thanks. Good. We actually have a lot of Bunnings fundraising barbecues or sausage sizzles every 4 weeks, and we have between 20 and 35 volunteers each time. So what we run is a complimentary volunteer raffle with 3 gift cards, $50, $20, $10. And that is really popular amongst the volunteers. And then we do an article on each time we do a barbecue. and we highlight volunteers there, what it was, and the winners of the complimentary barbecue. And our volunteers range in age from 55 to about 75. Oh, no, 88 is our oldest volunteers that he comes along to. And it's very popular. And some of the girls, some of the players who go along as volunteers too, they don't shop at Bunnings. So we either give them the $20 or whatever value it is that they won in cash or in a not reject, JB or iTunes type thing. Yeah, and that is very popular with our volunteers.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea about how it's a raffle. It's fairly, it just, just helps people, encourage people to volunteer at the Bunnings barbecues. That's great.
And to promote the inclusive side of it, we have our youngest volunteers tend to come first thing in the morning or last thing in the day to help pack up and all that sort of thing. So we get them to actually draw the raffle, and we get our other volunteer members who are the players. They actually do the scrutineering and the drawing of the raffle and all that sort of thing. So it's very, very well received.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent.
Thank you.
Paige or Luke?
I just think that's an awesome idea, Mark, and I might borrow and adapt that. One thing that's been important, and I've said this in other sessions as well, is at the end of each day we have somebody, either myself, one of the volunteer supervisors, one of our other staff members at the door saying thank you to people as they leave. It's a really simple thing, but we notice a difference when that personal touch is not there. And the same on entry. We have a bit of a team meeting every morning for whichever volunteers are on site that day, and again, just making people feel included, sharing that information around, and giving a shout out to people that have made a bit of an extra contribution or have sort of gone the extra mile for us that day.
Excellent, that's great.
I'm just really happy to be here because I'm starting up a small program. So it's just good to get some inspiration, and it's the first time I've done that. So yeah, at the moment it's we're using Be Collective to manage our volunteers, which is a way that we feel that they have that ability to be empowered by their own experience and see, like, they get like a social CV on there where they can see their contribution from us. And we can engage with them through that. But I am really interested in being here and learning about how I can recognize them in more creative ways. Yeah.
And what's your program that you're about to start, Paige?
So we're doing we've got 3 that are starting up here. One for spontaneous volunteers. We have we're running Be Connected. And so we need some digital mentors, a few of them. And then we have just like a few sort of a few volunteers for a few programs. So there's like not too many, I guess, and they're across different programs. But yeah, it's I used to work at the YMCA, and we had like youth mentors for our program. It was just the same sort of volunteer, but I think this is a little bit more complex for me because they're across different areas and they don't really interrelate. So it's just finding that way to bring them together as well. So I love that idea.
Excellent.
Of the barbecue.
Fantastic. Excellent. It's always good to also think about some key dates. I'm not sure that most people are aware of these dates, but we do have the International Volunteer Managers Day coming up in November. I think also when you think about managers, we normally do think about it as a paid professional. And yes, that is definitely one way, but a lot of volunteers are volunteer leaders as well. They will be managing other volunteers or teams of volunteers. So it could be also an opportunity to thank them during that certain day or around that day. Giving Tuesday as well is happening in November. So it's just supporting and encouraging people to volunteer or to donate. So it's a great way of highlighting the importance of both those aspects to your organizations. We have the International Day of Volunteer, which is December. So again, a great opportunity it's also just a good thing to highlight to your volunteers that, yes, volunteers are international and they're also internationally recognised. Next year, we'll have the National Volunteer Week, which is the 20th of May to the 26th of May. And then we have National Student Volunteer Week, which is in August. So 5th of August to the 12th of August. I would just like to play a short video of our last Volunteer of the Year awards. So we, I think we're nearly, maybe we're 3/4 through the regional. So we've been going across New South Wales and doing regional ceremonies. I've seen Mark at one. I don't know if I've seen you yet, Luke, at one yet. No. But yeah, so it's a great kind of afternoon. Yeah, Luke, have you gone to any of them this year?
Not this year, but Georgina, one of our volunteer supervisors, got to go along for the Outer Western Sydney ceremony.
Fantastic.
So that was really great. I'm trying to I'll give opportunities to the 2 new volunteer supervisors to represent and be part of that this year. It's kind of my
Excellent. And you can't be at all places at once, Luke. You do try very hard. But yes, sharing the love is good. So this is a video from last year. So our final is in December. And it's a great day. And I've been very fortunate enough to be able to interview the winners. You don't hear my voice on this recording at all, but I was the person behind the camera, which was lots and lots of fun. But yeah, I thought I just would play that profile.
To be named Volunteer of the Year makes me feel so excited and very humbled. I'm very grateful and very appreciative to receive all the support. I first started volunteering after I suffered from severe anxiety and depression in high school. And at the time I had so many people show me so much support and kindness, and I promised myself that I would give back one day. Hearing all the work of lots of other people in the community is remarkable. It shows that our world's in very good hands going forward. I'd just like to thank all of the volunteers who are out there volunteering their time. This is what makes our community so great. When I first started Project Kindness 5 years ago, I never would have imagined that I'd be named New South Wales Volunteer of the Year.
Yeah, so it's a great event, and we have, I think it's over, this year has been the biggest nominations that we have received. And I'm pretty sure it's over 100,000 volunteers have been formally recognised through the New South Wales of the Year award. And you can do it in multiple different ways. You can do bulk nomination forms. You can put teams up, volunteer leaders. Luke, you have you won one before? And I think Mark, you've won one as well before, right?
team. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think mine's ancient history, 2015.
It's less than 10 years.
Only just.
Excellent.
To be named Volunteer.
There we are. And so just these were the last year's winners. So the board one went to the Australian Wildlife Societies. The young volunteer does a lot of work in the multicultural space, so Rose Lewis. The team of the year was One Meal in Northern Beaches. The volunteer leader was Aman Singh, who is the founder of Turbans for Australia, so great individual. And then Joy Rappo, fantastic person, founded an organisation after she lost her son to support other families who had experienced similar things of losing a child. So you have a really, really interesting group of people. And again, it's a great recognition program. It allows for stories to be told. But yeah, so that is just the highlight of that. So how to think about diverse volunteer groups. So it's really important to know your volunteer groups, have an understanding of the culture, understanding if individual recognition is suitable or if it's better on a team setting. It's also knowing how people interact with one another as well. If there's things aren't going particularly well in a team, say if there's some work health safety issues, to put recognition into that scenario is not going to be very helpful. It needs to be a genuine, thought out process. Always ask and check in how recognition best works for them. It also needs to be culturally appropriate. So if your organization is from a certain cultural background, or if it's like a younger group or if it's an older group. So, afternoon tea for, a volunteer team at an art gallery might be very, very suitable. But an afternoon tea for people volunteering at YMCA probably won't be so appropriate. Just depends on the group. Again, that individual versus team level versus community level. So again, it's good to understand where the team is at the moment, how people want to be recognised, and there are definitely pros and cons to how you recognise your groups. And then that public versus private as well. So does the person want other people to know what they've been doing volunteer-wise, or are they just wanting that quiet thank you note or that quiet thank you at the door as they leave? So just be mindful about the setting, engage with your volunteers, ask them what's suitable for them, make sure that they're in a good setting as well, so the volunteer team's working well together or the program's working well together. So a couple of do's. So ask permission before recognising. It's also really important that people feel like they have a genuine choice to say no if they don't want to. Check the details for volunteers as well. So it's great to check about if any details have been updated, ask about pronouns, ask about what they do want to share. So just, again, don't make any assumptions, basically. Focus on personal bests as well. So comparing volunteers to volunteers sometimes is really tricky, and it's not the best practice. It's really looking at that individual, thinking about how they've improved, and it's more strengths-based approach as well. And then thinking about your recognition in lines with your goals and your strategies as well. So making sure it's in line with your organization's culture, making it in line with the mission and purpose of that organization. Like what we saw with the Oxfam video, that the recognition was clearly linking the volunteering efforts from that op shop to outcomes with their community development aid programs. So it was really tangible. It gave people more motivation to keep volunteering, and it allowed people to see how their efforts were contributing to that greater good. So a couple of don'ts. So don't make assumptions. Don't think everyone wants like a big flashy party, or sometimes people don't want that certificate. So just don't make those assumptions. Respecting people's privacy. So again, making sure that you have got, your photo release forms, all that type of thing is really secure. Don't guess about the motivations of volunteers. Have those regular conversations about why people are turning up again and again, and seeing how you can tap into those motivations with the reward and recognition. And don't always recognize the same volunteer or the same team as well. It's really good to explore about how you can actually recognize different people. And sometimes those louder, more extroverted people do get a lot of the attention. I am one of those extroverts. But it's more those quiet achievers that are, really sometimes the harder workers, but people sometimes don't always notice. So just a bit of a checklist as we finish. So there's some upcoming workshops on national standards of volunteering. It's really great to share one learning with a colleague. So have a think about maybe bringing something up in a meeting, or just saying, oh, I thought about we could, do a raffle, as Mark does with the, blow-fire cricket. Invite others to have a bit of a discussion around inclusion, about best practice as well. And then there'll be a form as well sent around.